What's happening? My name is Blake Harris, and this is the Music City Mindset. And let me tell you, we've got a strong show for you today. We've got strength in numbers because I'm not the only one here. Here with me, co-owner of Board and Brush in Hendersonville, Tennessee, someone who has spent a lot of time with me in the weight room but hasn't picked up a damn thing. My best friend for what feels like 3 decades, Evan Butler.
Yeah.
What's up, Easy?
Still moving weight, though.
Yeah, you are. So my question for you today is, as we've been doing this, I've heard you tell a couple stories recently, and it's kind of made me think about things like your association with me has gotten you recognized by people that you didn't know would recognize you. Judges, for instance, or things like that, doing this podcast. So what has that been like of the first time, like, realizing that someone knows who you are when you don't know who they are?
It's kind of weird because, you know, when you live here and you're just about your day-to-day life and, you know, you happen to be the most famous, unfamous person in the city, if that makes sense. And somebody come up and say, hey, I saw you did you interview so-and-so? Did you blah, blah, blah? I'm like, it catches me off guard. I have to be like, oh, yeah, I do that, by the way. Like, I'm so used to telling everybody the art and board and brush and air conditioning and, you know, all the others that it's like, oh, yeah, I do that too. Yeah, that was fun. But it's neat. I didn't expect it to happen. And even the other night out in East Nashville, you know, Monica was with me, my wife, and she's like, girl comes up and is like, hey, did you interview Colby Carter? And it's like, oh, yeah. And she's like, are you kidding me? You know?
It's weird the first time it happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, so there was this one time. This is appropriate now because this podcast is under the Nashville Fit Network. The previous owner of Nashville Fit, Ryan Freebring, shout out Ryan, sent me a text one time and asked me my email address, so I sent it to him. And I got these tickets, and it was for this big influencer Red Bull dinner. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't have no money at the time.
Right.
Nobody really knew who I was for real. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a big Red Bull event, bunch of people there, steak dinner. Like, so my plus one was my wife at the time. And I was like, we can use this as our date night. We pre-gamed beforehand. I showed up a little buzzed and showed up. I walked in a little late thinking no one would notice. And I walk in, there's like 25 people there. And you got like Carrie Underwood's trainer, Florida Georgia Line's trainer. It's like real intimate. And I don't feel like I'm supposed to be there. Like, this is like who's who of Nashville fitness. And then I show up a little drunk. So we had me and her talked about it. We're like, okay, let's just keep a low profile and just don't draw any attention because we're not supposed to be at this thing. So we get some free vodka Red Bulls after this whole like scientific explanation about why Red Bull needs to not be forgot about in the fitness community. And so we go over to a corner trying to make this romantic while everyone's like networking. Who are you? And I was like, I don't want anyone to ask me. And all of a sudden I see her eyes get real big over my shoulder. And I could tell someone's there, security in me. And I turn around. And there's this like muscly dude. He was like, hey, are you Music City Strongman? And I'll never forget that moment of the first time someone referenced me from Instagram. That was the first time ever. And I threw the whole plan out the window. It's like, well, as a matter of fact, I am. Next thing you know, I'm over there. Like, we're all hanging out. And so I'm interested to hear the other perspective of that story because that's how it felt for me. So here with us in the studio, we have the first person that knew me by my Instagram, the director of training for Klug Fitness, pound for pound, the strongest person that I know, competed at the highest level that our weight class offers in Strongman all across this country. Welcome to the program, my friend Matt McQuiston.
Yeah.
What up?
What's up, Matt?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, especially short notice. But
yeah, of course.
So Matt, you've gotten a little bit of notoriety. You got some things here that popped up when doing some research because sometimes I forget what my friends have done.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get into like what you've been able to accomplish here. But where are you from originally?
Originally, I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay.
Yep. And I moved here. So Kevin Klug, the owner of Klug Fitness, his twin brother, Carl Klug.
They're twins?
Identical twins, yep. He got drafted by the Titans. And this is 2000, about, what would that be, like 12 years ago? 2011, somewhere around there. Got drafted by the Titans. So Kevin moved here to Nashville to be with his twin brother. Started Klug Fitness on his own. About 6 months into the business being a real business, he talked me into moving down. He's like, you got to get down here. You got to, work with me. I've got a van. I'm getting a second van. We're going to do this mobile training thing. And that's kind of what led me. I was like, all right, dude, let's do it. And that's what brought me to Nashville, is to work with one of my best friends from college and roommate from college.
Okay, so y'all were roommates. Y'all played on the team together?
Yep, we both played linebacker at Minnesota State University, Mankato. I know it's a long name, but you got to say it right.
What division is that?
D2.
D2. So it's Minnesota State University, Mankato.
Close. You're so close.
So close.
Mankato.
Mankato.
Yeah, sounds kind of like a gay vegetable. Mankato.
It does.
Wow.
It does.
Good description.
That's a great description. So, growing up in St. Paul, I haven't really been to Minnesota. I ain't spent a lot of time there. Were you like in the city? Is St. Paul a big city, or?
I was like in a suburb. I wasn't downtown big city, but I mean, the Twin Cities area, St. Paul, Minneapolis, is pretty big, and you don't have to go far to get. I don't know. It's very rural. Like, there's not cornfields, and it's no matter where you are around the city, you're in the city.
So, like,
basically.
did you grow up in like the Murfreesboro?
Yeah, I guess you could say
Paul?
that. You could say that. Definitely like a suburb, but not. I don't know. I also lived in Iowa for a while.
Okay.
And Iowa was like, you'd have to drive 30 minutes to get town to town, where you would see nothing but cornfields for 30 minutes. Where Minnesota it's not like that. There's much more. I don't know. You're never like out of people, if that makes sense.
So obviously you played in high school, got recruited to go to college. What were you recruited by other schools? What was the choice to go to?
No, I wasn't heavily recruited. My high school football team was horrible.
Okay.
I was part of it. It's not like I was great and they were horrible. I was part of the losing. We lost. I don't think we won a single game my junior year, and I think we won like 2 or 3 games my senior year. So I wasn't heavily recruited just because our team was so bad. I remember having to go out and like email and mail coaches of schools that I wanted to go to, like, hey, here's my tape. Like, I was having to put myself out there. I was only getting recruited by D3 schools, basically in Minnesota. And like, I don't know if I really want to play D3.
I think we sent out 20 VHSs, because that's how old I am.
Yep.
And then we quickly converted those over to DVD, and we sent out like 30 to 50 DVDs in the little padded envelopes. Yeah,
and I ended up I have an older sister that was 2 years older than me, and she was already at Minnesota State, Mankato. And she was kind of talking to the coaches there, like, oh, my brother's really good. You got to get him on the team, whatever. So she was basically my, like, recruiting agent.
Yeah.
And then it was me calling the coaches, sending tape, whatever. And then they were like, all right, come on. And obviously no scholarship. They invited me to walk on.
Yeah.
Some people like to say they were a preferred walk-on. I was a walk-on.
Yeah. Unpreferred.
But I went there because my sister was there, and I had some connection. And, I didn't get any other D2 offers. It was all D3 offers, and, yeah, that's where I ended up.
They missed out, so.
I mean, the only reason
I like to think so.
Yeah, I mean, I would assume so. The only reason I was able to go D1 was minority scholarship. The only like real offers were.
You got a minority scholarship because you were the minority at
HBCU.
Yeah? Oh,
yeah, I don't know if they have black people in Minnesota, but.
Oh yeah, a few.
But yeah, Nashville actually is the only city in the entire world that has 4 HBCUs in the same city.
Wow.
So you played in college,
Yep.
and that's where you met Kevin.
Yeah. You know, we had been good friends our entire college career, really. We ended up living together for a couple of years, and then, like I said, when his brother got drafted and he moved here, it didn't take long before he was.
Where did Carl play college?
Iowa.
Iowa.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was a D tackle and D end at Iowa. Got drafted, I want to say 4th round. Good fact check me on that, but yeah, as soon as he got drafted, Kevin goes, "I'm moving to Nashville," and then it didn't. Kevin wasn't here very long, and he started recruiting me. Literally every day, he'd call me like, "Dude, you got to move here." And it took some convincing. I was like, I got a good job. I'm good. You know, I don't know what you're starting your own business. It sounds kind of shaky. Like,
Yeah.
Is there any guaranteed hours, money? Like, is there anything you can?
What was your major in?
Exercise science.
Okay.
I always knew that I wanted to be in the fitness field.
Mm-hmm.
It was the only thing I enjoyed doing. And then when it came to schooling, like I was originally a PE major, physical education,
Okay.
which is close to exercise science.
Mm-hmm.
But I got into like the actual teaching courses where they're teaching you like how to be a teacher, how to run a classroom. I can't. This is not.
I did the exact
this is
same
not
thing.
for me. As soon as I got into those courses, I said, "This is not it." And I went to my advisor and I changed my major right away. And I was thinking about like, okay, what do I want to do? Like, I don't know. I'm gonna be a strength coach, personal trainer. I couldn't think that far ahead of what do I want to do with my life. So I just thought, what classes do I enjoy? What do I actually want to learn on my own? Like, what textbooks am I going to read, not out of obligation, but out of fulfillment and enjoyment? And that is what took me to exercise science. I wanted to learn about strength conditioning, learn about the human body. And so I once I changed my major, I actually really enjoyed college and classes and all that. And I wasn't really worried about what am I going to do with this degree. I just enjoyed getting it. You know?
That's a good message for anybody going to college.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
many people struggle with that. And you
Yeah.
have to have the insight to go, what am I happy doing?
Yep.
That's,
I mean, I actually originally wanted to do more of like music, sound engineering, production standpoint. But what I learned was that there's a whole bunch of majors that you can't apply for as a scholarship athlete because some of those productions are Friday nights,
Yeah.
Saturday nights. So you can't go anything like meteorology, because a lot of that's at night. Looking at the sky, things like that. There's things that are such a conflict with why you're actually going
Yep.
that you can't even do it. So I couldn't even actually, I could have started in that, maybe minored in it, but I couldn't have actually gotten a degree in any kind of sound engineer because in order to do that, you have to actually have hands-on time, like with the productions, with the plays and things like that would have conflicted with
Football.
the football schedule.
Yeah, that was the other nice thing about exercise science is it went hand in hand with football because
Yeah.
I felt like football at the time was the center of my universe. I spent more time with football stuff than I did with class or did with really anything. And
Parties.
Oh yeah, but you know how it goes. Like that's year round, every day. Like you don't really get time off hardly ever. It's a full time job. You can't really have a job when you're a higher level D1.
As a
higher level
scholarship athlete,
D2.
you're not allowed to have a job.
Right.
At least back when I played, because you can't earn money.
Right. So they're like changing my major and deciding like I enjoy this. It also goes hand in hand with my
Passion.
my passion, which at the time was football. It was just perfect. And then that kind of evolved into what I'm doing now, which is basically personal training.
So when you graduated, at that point, did you come straight here?
No, I graduated and I stuck around Minnesota for a little while, doing part-time personal training jobs. I ended up moving to Iowa for basically I got to run my own gym basically.
what part of Iowa were you in?
Marshalltown, Iowa.
Okay.
It's great if you're driving through it to go somewhere else. If you want to live there for a couple years, I don't recommend it, but Iowa's great if you're from Iowa.
Or Illinois
yeah.
or Wisconsin.
If you're not from there, I don't recommend moving. But honestly, it was good for me to get out of my home state, to get out of being close proximity to my parents. Like, I just needed to do.
How far away was that when you were in Iowa?
Maybe like 4 hours. So it was a drivable. Like, if I needed to go home for a weekend or a holiday or whatever, it was an easy drive. But I felt like at that point in my life, I needed to get away from my comfort zone of home. And then it was nice I had a boss, but he was not involved in what I was doing. It was basically, I ran a gym out of a physical therapy studio.
Okay.
So they would do physical therapy, and then they could either come to me for personal training after physical therapy, or I would just get clients that just, no physical therapy, just wanted to work out. But I got to run the personal training business completely on my own. So for me to basically run my own business and get away from home and do it all on my own was a big step, and it was something that I needed to do as kind of a stepping stone to where I am now.
I want to talk about the mindset of you saying, like, you at that time, just getting out of college, still a kid, the mindset of you knowing that you needed to be away.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of the concept of what we do here, because for me, I feel like I'm able to take those risks that could develop into growth out of me because I'm where I grew up. This is where I'm comfortable. I have my friends and my family to support what I'm trying to do, and I've never lived anywhere else.
Yep.
And so how it, like, as a college kid, just graduated, what was the mindset of wanting to get out of your comfort zone? Because that seems so scary, especially at that age.
Well, I think there were two big factors that made me feel like I don't want to stay here. I don't want to stay near home. I want to go somewhere else. Number one was seeing, whether it was people from my high school or just people that I grew up with, and they're in the same town that we grew up in, and I see them get married early and have kids, and they I feel like I can see their whole life.
Right.
Like, even from that young age, at like, 20, early 20s, I feel like I know exactly what that person's doing the rest of their life.
You don't want to get trapped in that cycle.
Right. And so I could see
predictable.
I could see it from other people. I was like, that's not for me. And then number two, so I was living in college, and then after college, I moved home for a little while. Before I lived in Iowa, I was living at home. And I was living at home with my mom, my stepdad, my sister, her husband, and her 2 kids.
Full house.
All in one house. And then plus, 3 dogs and a cat. Like, it was crazy. And the kids at the time were, I don't know, maybe like 3 and 5, somewhere, like, young. Yeah. And dude, it was fun. Going home was not. I love my family, and
no peace and quiet.
There was no peace.
Your family's great though.
I love my family, and I miss them, and I wish I'd see them more. But at the time, it was like, I can't. So it was either I got to get out and get my own place and spend all this money when I'm basically living for free, get my own place somewhere nearby, or just completely move and start fresh. And to me, that was an easy decision, that I want to go somewhere else. And it's not blaming that on my family. I love my family. Yeah. But that was an easy, like, all right, this is not it. So it's either, move a few miles away or move a few states away. And I opted for the states.
So at that point, it's not really so much of like knowing what you want to do and locked in as much as it is, you knew what you didn't want.
Yeah. And then the flip side of that, if I don't want to be in this, like, stay in my hometown forever, I have to go do something else. And I have to make a bigger jump than I was comfortable with. Because really, even though I knew I wanted to do it, it was still hard. It was still scary. Like, loading up a U-Haul and driving to middle of nowhere, Iowa, and moving in by myself like that. It's very scary.
You're still a kid, and you're basically thrown into running your own business and figuring out how'd that go.
I remember the first day after I got hired, I had 0 clients, except for the boss's son. He's like, Grant, my son is going to work out with you. He's going to be your first client Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was like, all right, cool. So I had 1 client. But then he gave me a list of, like, everyone who had worked out with the previous trainer, of names and numbers. And I called probably 200 people in that first week. Just, hey, my name's Matt. I'm taking over the personal training here and just calling people and leaving messages and talking to people and just, like, like grunt work. It wasn't literally door to door, but that's what it felt like. Like I'm starting from literally zero, and I got to build up clientele. I got to do this all on my own, which, working a few other personal training jobs in gyms, they just give you everything. They give you clients, they make your schedule for you. They set all the pricing. Now it's completely clean slate. I got to do it all on my own. And I didn't know what I was doing, to be honest with you. It took me.
If you don't mind me asking, what was the conversion rate there of those 200?
4, maybe. Maybe. Dude, it was, and looking back on it now, we were charging, it was like $20 for
I was going to ask.
Dude, it was middle of nowhere, Iowa. And like, I'm the new guy. We can't charge, whatever. It was literally $20 for an hour. And yeah, it was.
When you go through Iowa, there's nothing but chiropractors.
Yeah.
So like to be a personal trainer and, not be chiropractic, not tied to something like that is.
You know why that is? You know why so many chiropractors?
Is there, isn't it?
Well, because most, other than like your Des Moines and Ames, like your big cities, all the other towns or cities that are in between usually have a big factory, whether it's a pork processing or it's a lot of like the cities form around
Iowa
the
have
factories.
more pigs than humans?
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty sure.
Corn and farms and everything's manual labor.
And so most of the people work in like some big factory, and then they get hurt and they can't to screen for people who are faking injuries or whatever, like I don't know, there's insurance reasons they have to go physical therapy. So there's a ton of physical therapy and chiropractors around where all the factories are. Because that was 90% of our clientele had come in for PT were factory workers.
Whereas if we could get to the point where they would like prescribe strength training, it'd be preventative.
Yeah.
But that's not what
I've
makes money there.
I've worked in a factory. It's tough to work out when you're when you're doing 12-hour shifts in steel-toe boots. The last thing you want to do is go to the gym.
What'd you do in a factory?
I worked in a Cambria countertops factory for a little while.
Oh.
Yeah, I took a short break from personal training because I wasn't making any money. I was like, I got to just pay my bills.
Yeah.
This was back in Minnesota before I moved to Iowa. And, yeah, dude, I just wasn't making enough money training at, like, LA Fitness and YMCA. It's like, I got to find a real job. So I found this factory job for Cambria, and it paid like $40 an hour or something at the time that I was like, oh, my God, I'm going to be rich. 12-hour shifts, $40 an hour. It was the worst. I think I worked 8 months. It was the worst 8 months of my life, dude. And I didn't even do, like, the hard work because I had a college degree, so they were trying to fast-track me to be a manager. Or
supervisor.
Yeah. And so they were just trying to get me, like, caught up with everything. And, dude, it was they could have paid me $500 an hour, and I wouldn't have lasted a year in that job.
Shout out to the people that can do it because, I mean,
100%.
Now I know we've all three done it. I found out real quick that, all day in a box with the bell ringing and leaving was not, it made me crazy.
I always tell people I never understood when I'd go, you go out and you see someone at the bar just by themselves, just staring like at the bar, drinking their beer. I never understood that until I worked in the factory. Because you make pretty good money, but you have no energy to do anything. All you want to do is get off the clock and go drink. And it's such a toxic work environment. But I didn't do it, but I understood. I was like, all right, I sympathize for that guy at the bar that just did 12 hours in a hot factory with steel-toe boots and his back hurts and he's got a boss like whipping, cracking the whip on him. I get it. Go have a beer.
Yeah.
So you eventually went, did you go from Iowa to Nashville, essentially?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So when Kevin, I had the job I had there was great. After 6 months or so, I had the ball rolling. I felt like I was doing well. I was making more money than I ever made. I didn't love Iowa, but I was 4 hours from home, so it was an easy, I felt close enough.
You're not home, but not far.
Right. So, like, I had a good life. I had a huge apartment that I paid nothing for because it was Iowa. It was, I enjoyed my work. I didn't enjoy living there or where I live, but I enjoyed my work. You build a relationship with clients. It's hard to just up and leave. But
Yeah.
Kevin was very persistent. He literally called me every day for probably 6 months. Like, dude, you ready? You want to come? You come to Nashville?
Yeah, you said it took some convincing.
It did. Well, just because I was happy with where I was, making good money. And then there was no guarantees with coming here for Klug Fitness. Klug Fitness wasn't really a thing before I moved here.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying I moved and made it a thing, but like Kevin had under a year, I think he was 6 months on his own before I moved. So as soon as he started, got like the LLC of Klug Fitness, he started calling me and recruiting me. But I asked him, like, how many clients am I going to start with? You know, what can you pay me? Is there any guaranteed, like, he said, dude, I can't. But one thing that he always said that sticks with me is that at some point you got to bet on yourself. And if you're confident in yourself, you don't need guarantees. You don't need, you know, anything other than your own motivation to get you where you want to be. And that's absolutely true. And
Had you ever been to Nashville, even to visit? Did you come see him?
So that's what I was like, all right, let me come down for, I didn't do a weekend. It might have been like a week or a half a week. And I went with him. I just, you know, rode around in the van with him to his clients for maybe like a day or two. And then he went on the road. He was touring with Sam Hunt at the time.
Okay.
So I think maybe that's what it was. It was a week. I came down on like a Monday, went with him, shadowed him on like Monday and Tuesday. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I just took the rest of his clients while he was on the road. And so basically just filled in for him. So did a week, went back to Iowa. I think that day I got back, I talked to my boss. I was like, hey, I got to put in my 2 weeks.
Damn.
Because I came here, shadowed Kevin, loved the city, loved the concept that we have of Klug Fitness. And then was like, all right, I'm in. Let's do
What
it.
was it about the city? Because
I think so. Even at the time, this is about 10 years ago now. It was still like this up and coming, like the boom had just started, I think. But I don't know. I felt like everyone you'd meet would be really excited to meet. Like, oh, where are you from? I just moved here too. Like there was just like an energy. They're meeting you, being native, was the rare occurrence. They're the unicorn.
Yeah.
Right. I feel like everyone I would meet just moved here, had a story. They were here for a reason. They were starting a business or whatever it might be. But I just felt like there was such a good energy, and I felt like there were so many good people here that were interested in growth and not just, being stagnant in where they are. That I don't know. It was just an easy place to fall in love with people. I never was really into like Broadway going out.
Yeah.
But I like country music, but I'm not enough to pay $60 for parking and crowds.
Yeah.
If we're talking Creed, I mean,
Yeah.
Well, that one, that's a little different. But no, I don't know. I just loved it. I love being here, and it was probably more the Klug Fitness model and what Kevin had created, even in the early stages. That I was like, all right, this is going to be a hit. This is going to grow. It's going to explode. Like,
Had you explored like mobile training options before?
no, and we didn't, or Kevin didn't invent mobile training.
Right.
It's been around. But what we do that's different, that I had not seen anyone else do, at least at the time, was actually delivering a full set of weights to people's homes. Squat rack, barbell, plates. Usually when you hear of a mobile trainer, they've got a couple of rubber-coated dumbbells in their trunk and a yoga mat and maybe a med ball and some bands. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But the style in which we deliver a workout, it's literally a full gym in your driveway. So people have nothing. We set up squat rack, bench, bars, plates, sled, like all the big stuff that you normally would only get in a gym.
like car hauler trailer pulling up. What are we talking about?
Work van.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the one I was in the parking lot. I don't know if you
Okay.
saw me in it, but yeah, it's all
it's
all there.
loaded down.
Yeah, it's all in there though. But
So when you have individual clients at their homes, you're actually pulling everything out.
everyone's different. I have some clients that have a full home gym. I don't have to touch anything out of the van. Which is always really nice, especially if it's air conditioned in the summer.
Yeah.
But I have some clients that we can't even use their garage. Like it's full of cars and stuff, like it's just driveway, whatever I can pull out in the van. So everyone's a little different. But when we started, we were using parking lots. half the time without permission. We would just go find an empty lot, like, oh, this restaurant doesn't open till noon. We can use their parking lot at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and 8 a.m. because no one will even know.
You're like trolls under bridges.
Dude,
over
we
there
were
in the Gulch.
we were under a bridge for a long time. Like I'd have to show up early and ask the homeless people to kindly relocate to the other end so I can have a little room.
Asshole.
Move your home.
Oh no, I was very nice. I was very respectful. I'd learned all their names. I'd bring them coffee, water. Like I had a good relationship with them. They were great. But yeah, dude, it took us a while to get like official where we got permits to be in parks or permission. I can't tell you how many times we would use a parking lot for like a group workout and then like cops would come in and like ask, are you guys supposed to be here? Do you have written permission? And be like, well, yeah, we were waiting on that. And you'd have to make up some excuse real quick. So we went through some hard times and like learning how to be a business and how to do things correctly and professionally, but
yeah.
I feel like we got it down now.
I mean, and as the city was changing rapidly,
Well, that was the other thing. When 10 years ago, when I first moved here, we found open lots everywhere, all over, like just an empty lot, no signage, no gate, no nothing. Now every single lot has a pay, a premier part or whatever a paid parking lot. Like you can't be in it at any time without paying.
Or a tall, skinny, or a hotel.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's just within the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, you used to could go downtown and park for free if you knew
the spots.
free or cheap if you knew
Right.
the spots. Now,
Yep.
it's not even worth it.
Yep.
So, and kind of wrapping up this first segment, is it an accurate statement to say that once you saw that this essentially felt like an entire city of people moving here to try something new, something different, kind of gave you the confidence to be one of those people to take this chance with Klug?
Yeah, for sure. Like to do what I'm doing now somewhere else. Like if I would have stayed in Iowa, I'm going to start my own mobile training business or whatever it might be. Like I feel like Iowa and people, like I said, people who are from Iowa love Iowa, and they should. It's beautiful.
Same.
It really is. It can be. But like here, I just felt like everyone was doing, whether they just moved here or not, like people were so ambitious here. Like everyone I met was either, some kind of artist or an entrepreneur, or they were just doing something that was important to them. And they were excited to be here because they all saw the same thing that I did, that Nashville is blowing up and it's growing so fast that there's going to be so much opportunity for whatever it is you want to do, whether it's music, podcast, fitness, like so many avenues for growth here. And that's what brought me here, really.
Land of hopes and dreams.
For sure.
Well, that pretty much covered all of your upbringing and got you to the point where you are now.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsors, and then we'll be back with more with Matt McQuiston. We are back here at the Music City Mindset. We are here with Matt McQuiston. Matt, we covered a lot about your backstory, some of those things
Sure.
I didn't really know. So now we've kind of gotten to the point where you and I met. How aware of Strongman, and when I say Strongman, obviously I think everybody was aware of like late night ESPN, World's Strongest Man, classic episodes.
Yep.
How aware were you of amateur level strongman at the time? How did you actually know who I was, and how did that whole thing get started? What was your perspective of that Red Bull event?
I had no awareness of amateur strongman other than I followed you on Instagram and I would watch your videos and I saw that you had done competitions and then I remember watching your videos and like I would add up the plates on the bar, like if you're front squatting, I'm like, all right, he's got 3 plates and a 25. All right, he's 365. He's doing like, and then I would try to compare, like, all right, this guy does strongman. Am I as strong as him? Like, am I even close to it?
Yeah.
And then I thought, I thought, like, I just want to go try. I want to go lift a stone and a log. Like, it just looks fun. I've never been someone who enjoys working out. I've always enjoyed training for something, but I really don't like just working out on its own. I like the process of it, and it's a means to an end for me. But if I don't have that end, I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels. And so when I saw you do that, I was like, this looks fun. This is something new I could try. I never even thought about competing. I just wanted to like try it and see how it went. So when I saw you there, you're pretty, I don't know if you know this, but you're pretty recognizable.
I was trying to keep a low
You
profile.
don't exactly blend into most crowds that you're in. So when I saw you, yeah, I didn't know your name. I just knew you were Music City Strongman. So I went up to you and said, hey, are you Music City Strongman? And I remember, I think I gave you my number, or I said, hey, I'd love to do that stuff with you sometime. Hit me up. And then, I don't know, it was months later, wasn't it? I think it was, because I think that was in November.
Yeah.
And then I think you texted me 2 months later in
January.
Yeah, I don't know. It was like December. It was like late December.
Late December, early January.
Yeah, because I remember I was home for Christmas, and you're like, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing Saturday?" And I said, "Oh, shoot, I don't know. I'm in Minnesota right now. I'll be back on this day, whatever." And you're like, "You want to do the Strongman show with me?" I said, hell yeah, let's do it. And I knew nothing about events. I knew nothing about any of it. I said, you need to show me the ropes. Like, if you coach me up on some of the stuff, I'll absolutely do it. So I remember going to that CrossFit gym with you. And
barefoot.
I remember one day I think we were pulling the truck. I think we were doing a arm over arm truck pull. And that, that's always something I've been pretty good at is like grip, anything with grip. And I remember I pulled it in and you look at me and you go, if you beat me in this competition, I'm going to be so mad.
So what a lot of people don't know is that I'd already qualified for nationals the year before at this same competition. And the only reason I did anything good is because I qualified in January and competed in October. So I had the entire year to basically prep for the biggest show. So David Waters, the promoter, called and was like, hey, are you wanting to do what you did last year and qualify at this show? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, I've only got a couple. He called the middleweight skinny fat dudes. And he said, so if you want to qualify, you got to get more people in your weight class. So help me help you. And you need to find at least one more skinny fat dude.
Because there was a minimum. You had to have at least like 5 competitors in order to qualify for nationals, right?
Yeah.
And I think we had 4 or something.
So if it was 5, the top 3, and if it was 4, the top 2. And so I just needed someone else in the field. I was like, okay, I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I can get someone else that I know to do strongman, and I get enough people that I can go to this show, and I can qualify for nationals. Nah.
I remember this now that you're saying this. Like, I remember this whole conversation.
You got to finish telling the story, because if I tell it, I sound like an asshole if I finish
I was
the story.
so pissed, man. He showed up. He was trying to figure it out. I was trying to coach him up, make sure he did well, and like would want to do it again. This motherfucker beat me. I got 3rd. He got 2nd, but there was 4 of us, so he got the nationals bid, and I didn't.
Damn.
I actually never beat him. We've competed in a bunch of shows together. I've never beat him.
I will say, like, I love that story, not because I don't like the ending of like, oh, I took your national spot. So I don't like telling that story. But I think that story is so important for like where you are now and your kind of your progression from just an athlete or a strongman competitor into a promoter, and not just a promoter, but like you're the grandfather of Nashville strongman. Like, there was no strongman group, there was no Nashville strongman before Blake kind of like not only bought the gym, but even before that, we were doing our strongman Saturdays and Sundays with our group of people that slowly just built up. to a point where you can own your own gym and
Yeah.
you can have, hundreds of clients rather than our little like group of 5 to 10. But I think that was such a pivotal moment. Not that you lost or anything, but it felt like your focus after that became more helping me and helping other competitors rather than just yourself, which is huge growth, at least from my perspective of you, is that like I can't imagine Blake just being a competitor anymore. Like I think he's much more interested in helping other people than he is even himself.
Even those days, though, of like when you said like just a small group, those will probably be looked back on as you'll look back on as some of the best times, though.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I miss our strongman group so much, and like we're all still here. It's just,
Right.
we all kind of have gone separate ways, or some people don't compete anymore, or we don't really do the same shows. Like I don't really do local shows anymore. So we just all grown.
Well,
but
and even me opening the gym, like when we were when I was partnering with gyms to have Strongman Sunday, I mean, it got to the point where like first it was you and me doing stuff at Quantum or Worlds back then.
Yep.
We added Danny, and there was the kind of the three of us doing different stuff. And then next thing you know, it grew to the point where like there was like 14 of us going ham on a Sunday. And then now that I own the gym, and that whole group, most of that group is still there, but they have access to it 24 hours.
Right.
So Sundays aren't really what they used to be.
Well, I feel like it got so big that everyone's kind of doing their own thing. Like when it was tight, when it was just a few of us, we were doing the same shows, like training the same,
Going to Airbnbs, everybody's staying in the same Airbnb.
Yeah, we all drive to the. I was on Danny's show and we were talking about when she picked us up at like 5 a.m. to go to, I think it was the Mammoth competition, and it's 5 a.m. and like me and Blake are just barely got our eyes open, and Danny's. We get in her car and it's like at 11 all the way up, and she's wide awake. Like, Danny, Jesus, like let us open our eyes a little bit.
That's the thing about them early days, though, is like I think about nights that everybody would go out, maybe even stay out all night, and then everybody showed up early on Sunday, no matter what.
Well, even at the competitions, I mean, I think it got to the point where, like, we would all go do competitions so we could do competitions together, but I think it somehow evolved into the point of, like, we would sign up to a show for an excuse to stay together and party afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, because
it was more about the party after the show.
And that was the only time that I would ever really go out or drink was after shows. And, like, I've never cared to just go out and drink, like, by myself or with, even with my wife.
Even as a factory worker.
But like that, dude, it was so much fun having your tight knit group that, hey, we're going to train really hard for this competition for 3-4 months. Then we're going to go do the competition. We didn't even really care how we did, really. Like, we'd want to win, but it was just fun to do it. And then going out afterwards where we can let loose. Like, for me, at least, I wouldn't drink for a month or so before a show. And then that'd be my first, like, sip of alcohol in at least a month. Dude, those were some of the best memories I have in Nashville. Was not even competing, but the post-show party.
The post-show parties were.
What was the pirate place?
That was Virginia.
Yeah.
The Pirate Sip.
Yeah.
Where they announced it, and then everybody.
Yeah, that wasn't at all how that was supposed to go. That was supposed to be reminiscent of our tight group, us going together at some little dive bar and just partying together. I didn't know. What no one else knew is that there was no alcohol at the convention center in Virginia. Normally, wherever they were, there would be like a cash bar off to the side.
Yep.
And people would like drink at the banquet and then go back home. But there was no, like, it was like a dry building or dry county or something. And so people were ripping Dion for not providing alcohol at the banquet. And she tried to recover from that by saying that the official after party was at the Pirate Sip, mentioned "Be My Name" at the podium in front of everybody at Nationals, and said where it was and who to ask for when you were there. Me, our Tennessee state chair, and they get there, and it's. But I don't even know how to describe that. It was like a house at one point.
Y'all said
it was a
the
bar.
house.
It was a bar with carpet.
Yeah.
Sticky.
If I remember right, didn't they ask y'all to come back the next night?
Oh,
because
yeah.
it was such a
Oh,
big deal.
the security guard still like interacts with my Instagram stories. Like they never had a line before.
You don't know it, but y'all have got like the record number on the wall.
Oh man, the DJ was cracked out. Like it was not anything that should have been
We still
official.
weren't going to talk about that.
Oh, yeah. So getting back on track here, working with Klug and what there was no guarantees coming down here for this.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back at like why y'all were at Red Bull dinners, he was working with Sam Hunt. I think he started working with FGL on tour. Like, how did that start working? But where y'all were not just this mobile, we'll come to you, but started working with some big names, because then you started working with Nate Bargatze. So how did that kind of happen as like this like other division of Klug?
I mean, Kevin was when he first moved here, he was working at D1, and his roommate was a manager of Lady Antebellum, and basically said, "Hey, they need a trainer," and so he got hooked up through his roommate for Lady A. Ended up going on tour with Lady A, and that kind of kicked off like the touring stuff. But as far as like training artists, celebrities, I've never called myself a celebrity trainer. Kevin doesn't call himself a celebrity trainer. I don't know what people mean when I see celebrity trainer on their Instagram bio. Like, what does that mean? Do you train them differently than you train?
That's what I was going to ask. Do you train Nate different than
No.
you train anybody else?
No, absolutely not. And I don't like that term for myself. When other people use it, I just want to ask them, like, why? What does that mean? Who are you? Who are you telling? Like, are you trying to impress other celebrities because they don't care?
Obviously, your work's not any different, and they're just regular people trying to do the same thing.
There's no different training a music artist as there is training a football player or a nurse, or the training that they do is going to be specific to their goals, but how you treat them as a person, as a client, shouldn't be any different. So I've been fortunate to have a lot of awesome clients in a lot of different avenues of life, but I've never looked at like, oh yeah, I get to train this guy and this guy and this girl, and he was on TV. Like, that honestly doesn't matter to me. Mm-hmm. Nate's a good friend of mine. I love when I get to work with him.
Is he funny in the sessions?
Yeah, he's great. He's honestly the hardest working person that maybe I've ever met. And I'm not just talking about in the workouts. Like, his drive for bettering himself and success is, I can't even think of a close second. And again, I don't want to give you a list of all these names that I've worked with, but I will tell you a couple of good...
I was going to say, you could name drop a little.
I'll tell you a couple of good Nate stories.
Okay.
When I first met Nate, I asked him, I always ask all my clients, what are your goals, both fitness related and like, what are your personal goals? What are your life goals? And the first personal goal he gave me was that he wanted to sell out Bridgestone Arena. And this was 2019, I think, maybe early 2020. He wasn't doing arena shows at the time. Like, he wasn't even getting booked at Bridgestone 5 years ago.
He had a Netflix, and I think
he had
a
just
little bit of Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, he had just got his first Netflix special out. So he was he was on his way up, but he was not doing arenas at the time. And so he told me, he said, I want to sell out Bridgestone. And then, I don't know if it was last year, 24, maybe 23, he not only sold out Bridgestone, but he set the attendance record. And he still has the attendance record. So, like, to me, that's I shouldn't say unbelievable because of how hard he works, but like, just a great example of, here's my goal. I'm gonna not only hit that goal, but I'm a
crush that goal.
It. And he always tells a funny joke. He says, "Yeah, and after I set the record, I stole one chair. I took one chair out of the arena so no one can beat my record because I stole that one chair." But yeah, man, he's such a hard worker. Like, he never stops. Another quick story I'll tell you about Nate was, I was going to go on vacation with him for, I think it was like 2 weeks. He was taking this vacation. He wanted me to come with to train not only him and his family, but couple of his friends that were also going. Didn't work out for whatever reason, scheduling, like I couldn't go. And then he texted me like 2 or 3 days into the trip and was like, hey, can we get a workout in? I was like, what? I thought you were on this 2-week vacation in Florida or wherever you were going. He's like, no, I wanted to get back to work. I stayed 2 nights and came home because I got to get back to work. So he had this big vacation booked, and he spent 2 nights there and got antsy. He's like, no, I got work to do. Let's go. That's just the kind of guy he is. He does not stop working ever. If he has a week off, he will fill it with something. And I think there's a lesson to be learned from that. I think I hear it's so trendy to talk about like work-life balance right now. Or like, listen to your body and just take a break. And like, yeah, that's good sometimes. But if you want greatness, whatever your field is,
there is no balance.
You got to work your ass off. And it doesn't mean it has to be miserable or it has to be something that you don't enjoy. But if you want balance, you better be okay with where you're at. Like, you better be just fine. But if you want to climb the ladder of no matter what you're doing, you got to make some sacrifices. You might have to not take a vacation or leave your vacation one day into it because you got stuff to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hold Nate. I don't see Nate as a celebrity. I just see him as a friend and a extremely, extremely driven individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I met Nate when I was probably 11, 12 for the first time, and he was obviously about a decade older. Him and me and his little sister were really good friends. Blake knows her. She used to come to church with us, stuff like that. And what I've seen is that Nate has not changed. I mean, maybe the work ethic's gotten a little stronger, but, like, what you see is what you get.
Yeah.
It's all real. That's who he is.
Well, even back then, I mean, him, like, what he was doing, like, with his dad and stuff like that, like, he still brings his dad, like.
His dad was doing the clown stuff back then.
He doesn't, I don't think he does the clown stuff anymore, but he does the magic. He does like a magic comedy routine, and he kills, man. Have you seen his dad?
Yeah,
perform?
that would be another one for this couch right here, because a man with an amazing story.
Steven?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Dude, you could just have him talk for an hour.
He's like a really good pickleball player now.
Really? Yeah. I didn't know that, but like I can see it. I can see it. Yeah.
And shout out to Nate's mama. She's an incredible woman.
So, did he mention you in one of his sets?
Nate?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's had a few like personal trainer jokes.
Yeah.
They're good. There's one where he talks about there's a 100% real conversation that I had with him, and I love it because he didn't embellish a word. Like, he probably took stuff away from the conversation, but he. I asked him, I was like, all right, so what'd you eat? What'd you eat today? And he goes, a couple donuts. And I was like, oh, we're like someone's birthday or something? Or like, was it like a special occasion? He's like, no, I just felt like having a couple donuts. And I say, were they like just on the table, like your wife brought them home, or they were, just out and you decided to grab one? He goes, no, I drove out of my way to get them. Say, oh, okay, just one, right? And he's like, no, and it just keeps going. But it's 100% real. I forget which special it's in. I think it might be, is it Tennessee Kid? I forget which special it's in.
Yeah, I think it's Tennessee Kid.
But it's, dude.
Hey, when that light's on, man.
It's my favorite. It's one of my favorite jokes of his. He's done a handful of personal training and like where I'm part of it. But that one's my favorite because it's 100% all real. Like I said, he probably shortened the conversation, but it just kept going. It was good. It was good.
So you would say at this point it worked out, not having guarantees, coming down here, moving here.
100%. 100%.
Do you see yourself ever living anywhere else? Or are you a Nashvilleian now?
I do not see myself living anywhere else. I'm not saying it couldn't happen. But as of now, like me and my wife, our immediate goal is to start a family. And, we're already looking at like schools and stuff and where if we want to live where we live now or if we want to move to get in a better school zone, whatever that might look like. So no, we're planning on being here. It's tough too when you marry somebody like from I'm from Minnesota. She's from Massachusetts. It
Yeah.
wouldn't make sense to live in Massachusetts or in Minnesota. So, what meeting we met here, we live here now. At least short term, this is where I think we're going to be, at least.
Yeah, I mean, just bought a house, so definitely putting some roots down.
Mm-hmm.
So what was that, with coming here with no guarantees, with no real solid foundation of what you would be doing long term? Now we're looking at like over a decade that you've been here. Like, what has been the mindset of being able to not just survive here, because that's what you kind of think about with like no guarantees, like I've got to scrap, I've got to survive, to what you're doing now with thriving professionally and personally, to stay here? Was there ever a time with Klug where you like almost like left Nashville, or was it ever hard to stay here, or has this been the course the whole time?
I wouldn't say it's been hard to stay here. I think what has always motivated me and what has kind of kept me here is that I'm constantly looking for growth. Like, I always want to know what's next. So as far as work with Klug Fitness, right now we're trying to, we have 7 trainers.
Yeah.
So
Big
we've
John?
Big John, shout out.
Yeah.
So we've gone from, it was just me and Kevin, 8 years ago, to now 7. With everyone has their own van. So like there's growth there. Also, my responsibilities have grown. Like, I'm not just a trainer. I do some admin. I do a lot of managing, director of training. So I manage the other trainers in a sense. So there's some non-training responsibilities that I have. That's growth there. And
I've heard through the grapevines about some of the interviews and stuff.
Yeah, they've gone well. But so I'm always looking for what's my next step, and it eventually it will probably be training less, at least less in person, and doing more either admin or online stuff. Because the hard thing about mobile training, what we do, is you got 30-minute drive in between each client. It limits how many people you can see in a day. Like, I can get to 8 people in a day, but that's a long, full day.
Yeah,
that's
traffic.
8 hours of training plus probably 4 hours of driving.
Right.
Like, it's a lot. So a good day, a solid day for me is like 5 sessions, which isn't a lot. You probably can get 10, 12 at the gym if you overlap a little bit, no problem. So we are, as a mobile trainer, you're limited in just your capacity. So my next step is working on how do I maximize my training time while also having some more home time, whether that's admin work, computer work, whatever it might be, especially looking ahead to, hopefully having kids and not driving around a van 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. every day. Or with Strongman, it's the same thing. Like, I started doing really well and winning some local shows, and I said, all right, what's the next step? Do I just keep doing local shows and just, stay in a big fish in a small pond? Or do I invest in a trainer or a coach, a dietitian, and try and up my game to where I can compete nationally or internationally? And that was the road that I took of, all right, what do I need to do to get to the next level, which, that's kind of where at least I hope I'm at now.
Yeah, oh,
but
for
even,
sure.
But even now I start thinking like, all right, what's the next step? Like, what, if I do this where I'm at for a while, where am I going next? Do I, like, one thing on my bucket list that I have not done is competed in a different country, which is something that I really would like to do before I retire. I'm 36, and I know there are guys that are in their 40s still competing, but I honestly don't know how much longer I'll do it, just because my body's taking a toll, and also looking ahead
it's
to
tough.
with starting a family. It's going to take up a lot more time. I don't know if I'll have as much time to dedicate to training and all that. So like that's definitely one thing that's still on the bucket list.
Yeah.
But I'm just always looking for that next opportunity. Where do I grow? Whether that's buying a house, getting engaged, like what's next. So that's kind of what's kept me like interested in, or it kept me here in Nashville. Like I said earlier, there's so much room for growth. Other people are excited about what they're doing. It makes it easy. Even like you with the gym, you with the podcast, like you've grown so much in the 10 years that I've known you. And I feel like that's a common theme in Nashville that makes it easy for me to be excited about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What would you say was did you have to change your mindset at all of like going from like fun shows where it's like, I don't even care how I do, to like, so we can like be together and party afterwards, to like some of the shows you've done? I mean, the Clash shows,
Yep.
the Pro Strongman League,
Yep.
Shaw, OSG,
Yep.
like those, you've competed at the biggest competitions that a 231 can compete at.
Yep, I've done every major show for the middleweight, the 105 or 231. It is different. It's not as, I don't want to say it's not as fun, because it's a different kind of fun. When you're competing with the best, like literally the best in the world, that's a different kind of fun as competing with your best friends, when you're all just kind of like, you know, you're rooting each other on. You don't really care so much about how you do. It's more about the atmosphere and the environment. So it's different. I would say mindset is definitely different. When I go to the big shows for the 105s, I don't care as much about the fun aspect.
Mm-hmm.
I want to win. And I'm there, and I honestly don't even care about like PRs. I want, like, I'll take a something under my PR that wins an event over hitting a PR that gets third. Does that make sense? Where like at a local show, and this is what I tell my most of my athletes that I coach for Strongman is, let's not worry about your placing. I don't care where you end up on the podium, where you end up in this event. Let's get your goal. If you have a deadlift goal and we want to hit a 500-pound deadlift, because that would be a PR, let's hit that 500-pound deadlift. Let's not care about where you place. But for me, now that I'm competing at a higher level, it's the opposite. I don't care what the number is. I want to win the event. I want to win the show. I want a podium. I don't care so much about the PRs, and you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes 100%. But that's definitely like a shift from some of those local mammoths.
Yeah.
To that.
It is.
And not everyone can take the fun out of it. But you got to I feel like you got to be competitive to take the fun out of it, because now like that's what's driving you, right? Like you're competitive, the drive to win.
Yeah. And you know, I've slowly been working my way up, where I feel like I've done a little bit better every year. Mm-hmm. And, you know, this past year I podiumed in 2 major shows. I was second at the Shaw, I was third at PSL, and then I was 4th, which was just off the podium at OSG, which is World Championship. Yeah. And so that year I was like, I want to start winning these shows now. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, I need a first place. So that was my big goal for this year. Little injury, snafu, where it set me back a little bit, but like, I'm constantly trying to work up. I'm happy I got some podiums last year. Now I want that gold medal, basically.
Man, seeing y'all snap in and out of it is one thing too, because like sitting here talking to y'all, it's a one atmosphere. But like I've been there when you were qualifying, and like the thing that pops into my head, it's like I walk in, he's bleeding. I'm like, you need some paper towels, or somebody's like, no, leave it. Just like, you know, just going hard.
It is. I mean, you got to take yourself to some mental dark places sometimes, like, because it, especially at the high level shows, like the weights are every year get heavier. The weights that we're doing right now as 105 competitors are heavier than the world's strongest men were doing in the 90s. Like it's unbelievable, and every year people
bigger,
are getting
faster,
stronger every year. It's crazy. So like it's not fun, and it's not always healthy to lift and do the things that we do. And so sometimes you have to kind of get into a mental headspace of, you know, I don't care if this hurts. I don't care if you know, I injure something. Mm-hmm. And it's not, I don't recommend it.
No.
I don't, I'm not advocating for it. But like we were
not
talking,
what you would tell your athletes.
Exactly. But like we were talking about with Nate, like if you want greatness, if you want to actually push yourself to the highest level that you can get to, you have to make some sacrifices. You have to push yourself.
It was
out
actually
of your
phrased
comfort
to
zone.
me one time as there's no balance in excellence.
I love it. Yeah. You want balance and you want to be just good, that's great. If you want excellence, a little different.
There's a few constants we keep hearing from this couch, and one, you know, you touched on with getting out of your comfort zone, moving here, not being stagnant, and that's another one. No mediocrity in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with someone who wants to stay in their hometown their whole life and work at their dad's, firm. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. If that makes them happy, that's
If
great.
that's what they want to do.
Exactly. I'm not, when I say that, I'm not trying to put down anyone who chooses a different path. I'm just saying, I've chose my path as a personal trainer. I know I'm not going to, buy a $10 million mansion off my personal training salary. Like, I've made sacrifices in other spots or other areas of my life where, like, hey, I'm happy with this as it is. I don't it doesn't have to be to the extreme in every avenue of life. But, if you want greatness in one thing, that one thing needs to take precedent, I think.
Has getting involved in Strongman helped your personal training career, like setting you apart?
I think so. I remember the first mammoth I did. There was an event where we had to, it was like a stone carry relay. And there was like a natural stone, an atlas stone. There were like 4 stones. And it was just pick one up, carry it down. Pick up the next one, carry it back. And I think it was 4. And it was a 2-minute time cap. And I remember struggling through the full, like, I dropped each stone 3 times, and I'd pick it up, and I'd take 2 steps and drop it, pick it up, take a couple steps, drop it. And I didn't finish it. I think I got on the 3rd stone. But I remember thinking that was the hardest thing I've ever done in my whole life, was that 2 minutes of just struggling to carry these big-ass stones. And so I took and it took me an hour to catch my breath after that. And I remember thinking about that, like, how simple of a movement. Pick this up, carry it over there. And so that kind of made me shift my personal training philosophy, rather than doing, like, we're going to do a burpee and a bench hop and then we're going to run and do a pull-up, and, like, trying to make these cool looking, like, Instagram friendly, cool videos for, like, it doesn't have to look cool. It doesn't have to be eye-catching. It just has to be work. And so I kind of took the simplicity of Strongman and tried to incorporate that into my personal training. And I think clients respond to it, and they enjoy it. And it gives them a different sense of, like, what they're capable of and their work capacity, rather than just doing burpees and jogging and the stuff that I've kind of taken out of my toolbox at this point.
Well, you've also, thank you for what you said about me, but this is about you. You've also grown a lot since that rooftop with those Red Bulls and vodkas, literally as well.
Literally, yes.
You are a lot bigger, a lot stronger. It's like you pushed me, but you were always ahead of me. So I've always been kind of like, as long as I can stay in the same room as Matt, then I'm doing all right. Man, just to kind of wrap this up, like, the person that you were wanting to get out of your comfort zone, in Iowa, and how scary that was. Now you're making, like, lifelong decisions, this 30-year decisions with a mortgage and marriage and family and stuff like that. Like, have the mindset that kind of Strongman and, like, what you've developed out of the grit of moving to Nashville, staying in Nashville, and that mindset there, has that shifted, like, what seems scary to you now?
I don't know if it shifted what seems scary, because I think having that nervousness or that anxiousness or that scared feeling of big life decisions is natural. And I think it's a good thing. It means whatever you're deciding is important to you. If it wasn't important, whatever, I'll just do A or B. It doesn't really matter. But when it's, oh man, like, this is a big deal, and should I do it? Should I not? Like, there's a sense of just importance that is carried with that anxious feeling. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think anyone should, feel bad, like, why am I nervous about this interview? Why am I anxious to make this move? Like, it's because it's important, and that's not a bad thing. So I still feel that way. When I bought my wedding ring, or my engagement ring for Andrea, I sat on it for a year. I knew I wanted to marry her and propose to her, but I was so scared, because it was like, once I do this, I know she's going to say yes, and then that's it. Like, I knew I wanted to do it, but that's such a big step. Like in my mind, that was crazy. I was like, I'm 33 or 34, however old I was. I'm still a young kid. I shouldn't be getting married yet. Like, even though I knew I wanted it, I was still scared. So, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it just means it's important to you.
You're speaking real loud at me right now.
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes, I am.
But
no, so I still get scared and anxious, and it's a normal part of life. I think just embracing it and like
that's the part. I feel like now, instead of being like, oh, that's scary, like now I'm like, what would be a scary decision? Like I'm almost looking for it now.
Yeah. I think it's I think if something worries you in a way of like, I don't know if I should do this, I think that's a good sign that, not that you should do it, but that's a good sign that is a path towards growth. If it wasn't, you wouldn't care. You would just, whatever, I'll do either one, you know?
Yeah.
So I think it's a good sign when people get anxious.
I do too, because there's a lot that still makes me do that way, but you got to do it anyway.
Yep.
Even in the rafters of buildings, you might be scared, but you got to do it anyway. Matt, thank you for coming on and doing this today. It means a lot. If you liked this show, go ahead and hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, share it. You never know who needs to hear the words that we just heard. It inspires me every time we do this. So don't be selfish with the knowledge that gets spread here at the Music City Mindset. And for the love of Nashville, tune into the next one.